The North Node in Aries and South Node in Libra in the natal chart is about moving away from being so caught up in with the other things and others' opinions and all the ways of being that make it so easy to get caught up in, people pleasing, codependency, and moving into being at peace with yourself, being very strong within yourself and your identity, going out and asserting yourself in your life, and having the courage to stand up for yourself. That is what the Aries North Node and Libra South Node deal with in astrology. And in this video, I'm going to be going in depth to discuss this placement. It is actually, I filmed actually a couple of videos about this placement. I filmed one video, in 2022, in, like March 2022, I think, about this. And I filmed another one in 2023 in the summer about, on my original channel. And then we had the North Node move through Aries, and so I filmed that. And then here we are at 2026 with all these planets moving into Aries now, and Aries season begins today. I'm doing this on the equinox, so it's a perfect time to talk about the North Node in Aries. Perfect day to talk about this. I am an Aries sun sign, so I would be really supportive of those who have this placement, in their charts, as opposed to just helping them evolve into this energy, because I, live with Aries energy. And I am moving towards the higher expressions of, Aries energy to become the highest version of who I am. And so I think that somebody who has the same sun sign as your North Node is very, very healthy for you, or who has a lot of planets in that sign in their chart is very, very healthy for you in relationship. So what I'm going to do to begin this is I'm going to be starting out with reading this book. And the book is Astrology for the Soul by Jen Spiller, about the nodes. And the nodes are really all about, the soul. And, it's really about the soul and the soul's, where the soul needs to go, what your soul is calling you towards in order to live a very, very fulfilled life in this life. In order to live a meaningful life. And not just a fated life where, fate and, is taking over, where you don't have free will to choose your own life and choose your own destiny and go on your own path. So that's what the nodes are really about. Sometime I'll do a video on what the nodes actually are, so that you can know what they are. But anyway, getting into, just because I'm going through all these placements, and, I might as well make a video about what these nodes actually mean and what they actually are about. So, now what I'm going to be doing is going through some dates of when the North Node was in Aries and South Node was in Libra in the past, so you can know when you were born during these dates. Let me just find it here. So, start from the very, very beginning. The North Node transited Aries between December 9th, 1913 and June 6th, 1913. Wait a second. March 24th, wait a second, I'm not reading this correctly. December 9th, 1911 through June 6th, 1913. Somebody born during that transit in 1912, August 15th, 1912, was Julia Child. She was an Aries North Node. What did she do but teach America and possibly the world how to cook and how to eat? By her cooking show, The French Chef, showing everyone techniques and really being strong in her identity of I am initiating something new. Like Aries is initiator of something new. it starts something new that hasn't been done before. It's very creative energy. It has a lot of creative life force to it. The Julia child was initiating cooking. She was initiating this whole world, this whole culinary world. And she was one of the first to do this. She was one of the pioneers with showing, all these kitchen techniques and tools. And she put herself out there on television and wrote cookbooks. And she had her husband to encourage her. And I think there's something about Aries North Node having others in their lives that encourage them and see the potential in them. Like, you could be a star. You could do this. You could do that. Where they are valuing who you are. Where they understand who you are and they want to support you in being the best version of yourself. And they appreciate who you are. And they're showing that by, by really, encouraging you for yourself to do these things. But, do you feel inspired to do them? Do you want to do them? Is this person lighting a spark in you to pursue these goals or whatever? So that's worth questioning. Then the next date of the North Node in Aries was July 8th, 1930 to December 28th, 1931. And then again from July 27th, 1950 to March 28th, 1952. Wait a second, I'm getting that wrong. January 27th, 1949 to July 26th, 1950. And Meryl Streep was born June 22nd, 1949. So she has an Aries North Node also. Then August 20th, 1967 to April 19th, 1969. And I think on October 6th, 1968 and March 30th, 1968, two people which really, really remind me of each other, who are very, very Aries individuals were born. Celine Dion and Mel Robbins. Celine Dion was a singer. Is a singer. And, listen to her powerful voice. It is such a very, very powerful, iconic, very, very strong voice. And she really has a lot of expression and passion in her voice when she sings. And she is really stepping into her Aries energy with being herself. And that's what you're meant to be when it comes to Aries North Node, is being yourself. And then, Mel Robbins, who talks about, born in October of 1968, who talks about basically living a life according to just pushing yourself and making things happen in your life and not procrastinating and being the authority of your life. And so she really talks a lot about that with her 5-second rule, which gets you out of bed in the morning. These are people that are very Aries in nature. And Mel Robbins has Moon, Saturn, North Node, all in Aries. So stellium of planets in Aries. So then the next transit of the North Node through Aries is April 7th, 1986 to December 2nd, 1987. And then again from June 22nd, 2006 to December 18th, 2007. Wait a second, that's wrong. December 26th, 2004 to June 21st, 2006. Then again, July 18th, 2020, the last transit of the North Node through Aries was July 17th, 2023 to January 11th, 2025. That was the last time the North Node was in Aries, just the last transit that we were working through. Okay, so now I've given you the dates. This is the very, very first chapter in the book, and this is just to start us off. Okay, this is just to start us off, but I do go into a lot of, explanation in this when I go through the tendencies to leave behind. I can almost make the whole video of this, but I don't want to. Okay, so, and a lot of these are going to be kind of self-explanatory, I feel like. So the very, very first thing is that a lot of this is going to overlap with what I'm going to say later. I'm going to include some new details, but a lot of this is going to be, I'm probably going to be repeating the same information later in this video. So the first tendency to leave behind with the, Libra South Node is working to reduce the influence of these tendencies can help make life easier and more enjoyable. Seeing oneself through others' eyes is the first tendency. Libra South Node has this tendency to define themselves through others, to always look at them not through the perspective of their own eyes, their own perspective, of seeing them for who they are. Like Aries energy sees themselves for who they are, very, very strong in their identity. But Libra South Node sees themselves through the eyes of others. They allow the opinions and the judgments and all of what others think of them affect them of how they see. Like how others think of them is how they think of themselves and see themselves. Which is a very, very unhealthy mindset to live with, because then you're living from the outside in. You're not strong within yourself and who you are as an individual. And then the other thing is debilitating selflessness. And, the North Node in Pisces is another example of this that I just did a video about that, and I've talked out of that placement. I will not be making another thing about that for quite a long time. Maybe a transit video on the nodes right now, but I just, know so much about that placement now. But another tendency is debilitating selflessness. And this means, serving others and being selfless, like thinking of others first, putting the other first, because that's who you are when you're selfless, putting the other first, and maybe being overly accommodating and overly giving, sacrificing yourself for somebody else. That's what it means to be selfless, is to put others first. And in this lifetime, it's not very, very healthy, because you do it in such a way where it's so extreme, where you forget, I am a soul and human body. I have my own identity. I have my own goals. I have my own passions. And you put all of yourself aside just to serve others, just to help others, just to be there for others. And that is not healthy. So you're leaning into the energy of somebody called divine selfishness, or the positive high road of selfishness, which is putting yourself first. That's what you're leaning into in this life. So going out of selfless to selfish. And not that you're going to be, it's important, yes, the strength with the South Node and Libra is being able to consider others and be self-aware. Like, they're incredibly self-aware people. They know how to harmonize, and they know relationships like the back of their hand, and they can do it very, very well. Yet it's so extreme that they lose themselves out of the picture. Like, you have to understand that, like, when you're having a conversation or when you're putting yourself in a relationship, you are part of the picture. You have to include yourself. You are part of that relationship. So be strong in yourself. That's the balance. And, Libra thinks that balance is like, oh, if I just harmonize with this person, and I just agree with them with everything, and I just am, with them with everything, and I am on their side with everything, and I bend with everything, then that's balance. That's not balance. What balance is balancing your needs and wants with what you're doing with the other. Like, Libra thinks balance is, that the lower Libra can get stuck in the trap of balance is just putting yourself aside and, harmonizing. Well, that's not true. Part of it is yourself and the other. That's what makes a relationship, you and another person. So, the next tendency is playing on this role. And I think that this is so typical for, Libra South Nodes, because they were probably in past lifetimes where they were in marriages, where they were in partnerships, playing a role of Mr. and Mrs. Nice, like being what is called not kind, but what is called considered to be nicey, which is like, like nice is just, all these things. And I think that Libra South Nodes were trained, this is how you must act. These are the rules of social etiquette. This is how you must present yourself and do all this. Instead of being who you truly are, you're training to censoring yourself for others and suppressing your identity and who you are. So, being Mr. and Mrs. Nice, covering up the truth, and, Libra South Nodes can really cover up truth, withhold truth to others. And Pisces can kind of suffer from that same tendency, but Libra South Node can cover up the truth of what they want to tell, what they really feel about that other person, and what they want to tell them. Like, they cover up the truth because they don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to cause conflict. They don't want to stir up havoc. So they don't tell the truth, like, this is what I honestly feel about you. This is what you need to know. Instead, they withhold that. And that is not very compassionate. That is telling the person, that is thinking that they are, not strong enough within themselves to hear and handle the truth. Like, you can't handle the truth. And if you do believe in relationships so strongly, then I would really veer away from that and be assertive and tell that person, this is what I really think of you. In kind ways and evolved ways, not like an aggressive, way that hurts others' feelings, but, but in honest, assertive ways in this life. The next thing is, obsessive attachment to fairness and justice. I think, this need for things to always be, and I have a Libra moon. So I have this dynamic in my chart. I have Sun and Aries, Moon in Libra. And I need peace on an emotional level. Even though my Sun in Aries is not afraid to be themselves. Like for me, I don't want to engage in conflict about who I am, but I will not people please. I will not bend over backwards. And my moon is at the very end of Libra, so it's pretty evolved. So I don't want to argue and fight about who I want to be, but I will not bend over backwards just to please the other, which is the downside of Libra energy. The very, very shadow side of Libra energy is excessive attachment to fairness and justice, like thinking that everything has to be even. Everyone has to be fair and doing the same things in the same way, and I think communism is something going on with that, where everyone is doing this kind of same things, like this need for everybody to be even keel, like doing the same things in a very, very calm, controlled way where no one stands out. Like, I think what Jen Spiller means with this is that everybody is a unique individual. And the world is an unfair place, and there's certainly disadvantages to that. But the advantage is that everyone is being themselves authentically. Like, if everything were fair and everyone was the same, we wouldn't have texture. We wouldn't have variety. We wouldn't have personality. We wouldn't have individuality. We wouldn't have anyone having their own beliefs. So the world is meant to be unfair in the way, making things more just and fair. But I'm talking about justice and fairness where you're, where we're living in a world where no one is being their authentic selves with their personality. And, and part of it is, appreciating, others, being their authentic self, but mainly you being your authentic self. And getting out of this mindset of having everything to be fair and having everything to be the same and everyone to be the same. Because then, life wouldn't be so interesting, if everyone went on the same path and did the same thing. Like, if every relationship was balanced and, just with that kind of thing, then, that's what she means, I think. So, codependence, attachment to eternal, external harmony. There's this need for harmony at all costs. Libra wants harmony. Wants, all these things. And I think it's very, very fair for us right now to look at what it means to be harmonious in relationships. So being harmonious in relationships is being balanced in those relationships. Like Libra is the scales. It's all about balance. Like, am I balanced with the other person? Being respectful and supportive to others. The other thing that it says here about harmony, which is very, very important to note. And, it talks about how harmony is through being assertive with your communication. Communicating effectively means communicating in a way where you are being very, very clear about what you want and what you need and being honest and transparent with your communication. And rather than just constantly agreeing with the other all the time. You do not have to agree with the other, and the other does not have to agree with you. It is okay to have disagreements in relationships, and you are meant to have disagreements in relationships. You don't have to agree with every little thing all the time. So that is what I want to emphasize there with that. There's actually this, this need for both partners to be their authentic selves in relationship. They're not meant to just bend and compromise their own identity for the other. Okay, they're meant to remain themselves and respect each other, and blending their what they think and their goals and everything like that. So that is what I wanted to clarify about that, which I think is very, very important to clarify. About that, and then codependence. Like relying on the other to and Libra hates disharmony. It wants harmony at all costs, even if it's bending over backwards, even if it disagrees with the other, even if there's harmony despite the people being individual, they will want the harmony because that is the most important thing. So codependence. Relying on the other for things, relying on the other to define who you are. Being codependent, overly relying on the other person, to kind of keep your boat afloat. Wait a second. Codependency is also, part of it is enabling, as it says on Google. Part of it is enabling, and I want to talk about this. Like, you have, a lot of things that come down to, enabling, this is not compassionate. You have to understand this. When you enable somebody, you're saying that what you are doing is okay when it's not okay with me, and it's not good for you, and it's not healthy for you, and it's not for your highest good, just because you want peace. You enable and you say, oh, I'm going to give you the money, I'm going to give you things, just to be kind, and just to be nice, and just to give the other what they want, and just to people please, and not really caring for the other, when it comes to that. But codependency is overly relying on the other. And then with codependency, you sacrifice your own needs. You sacrifice what your needs are as an individual. And not only your wants, but your needs. And your needs come first. Like you come first. The other does not come first. You're a human body living in this human experience, and so you are meant to put your needs first. And you lose your sense of identity. You lose who you are when you are codependent. Another thing is having boundaries. Having boundaries between, you and another is very, very important. Because, knowing where you end and the other begin. I've talked about that in several, videos before. Having, boundaries when it comes to, this is who I am in this identity, and this is who are, and I am respecting who you are in a way where I'm respecting myself. Like the key lesson of, North Node in Aries is to respect yourself, to have self-respect. So, and, having strong boundaries. And then just this constant need for relationships, just this emotional dependency on this on this relationship. And dependency isn't a bad thing. Like, I'm depending on you because I can count on you and because I trust you, and people are very, very important in our lives. Codependency, not so much, because there's this constant need to be needed and to be with somebody. Like, you are afraid, like one of the things I'm going to talk about later is you are afraid of being on your own because you need a partner to sort of support you in your needs. Like, there is this insecurity of being on your own, which I'm going to talk about later a little bit more in depth. So frequency, So, okay, so that is all that I wanted to extract from that about codependency. And then the other thing is, tit for tat. Interesting. What does it mean, tit for tat? Well, it means, if you did this to me, I'm going to do this to you because it's fair. Instead of allowing the other person to just, be themselves and learn their own lesson and going your own path, you are, wanting to make it fair because you're wanting to, get back at the person for, what they have done to you, and so you want to get back, at them. For that, because of the fairness that goes involved with that. I'm guessing with that. I'm not going to go too much into that, but anyway, North Node and Aries. I want to jump to these attributes to develop. The very, very first one is independence, being your independent self, separating yourself from others and relationships. Because you can really, like when you're growing up, you're afraid of being on your own. Living on your own, being, your own person, because you're afraid of just what if I don't have somebody else to hold my hand? What if I don't have somebody else to, support me and be with me and talk with me and share my life? Like, Libra wants someone to share their life with. That's an essential Libra need. And it's not that you can't have that in this lifetime, but it's just when you overly rely on the other person that gets unhealthy. So independence is the first one. The next tendency is self-awareness, and I should actually put this in the Libra North Node category. Because I've actually found that self-awareness is like really considering with the other things, but part of self-awareness is being, aware of yourself. Like, on the other side of the coin, self-awareness is like, how am I doing impacts others? Like, what I am doing, how does it impact the others around me? You are so self-aware that you don't even need that. So I don't understand why that is in there. But just being aware of who you are in terms of your own needs and your own wants. I think that's what she means by self-awareness here. And then also trusting your impulses. Like, Libra has a tendency to overthink, get so caught in the mind, way out. Like, Libra is also very, very indecisive. You're very, very, like, Aries is very impulsive because it is very decisive, because it is very simple. Like, Libra is just so complex. Like, it gets so up in the mind with all these people to consider and all these options and all these, like, you have these options over here and these options over there, and you're like, what path do I choose from? And then you get caught up in, well, I could do this, but what if the other doesn't like it? And what if it hurts this person? Or, I promised this person I wouldn't do this, even though I want to do this. Oh, I'm not going to do this because I don't want to rock the boat, whatever. So when you do that, you ignore your impulses. You ignore, what those impulses, with that impulse. Like, Aries is like, I gotta go, I have an impulse, I want to act on it. But you ignore those impulses when you get into overthinking. So trusting your impulses, trusting your gut. Trusting your gut to make your own decisions to go in your own path. Don't get caught in others' opinions and rationalizing things and what others say, because others can kind of lead you astray where you have a gut feeling, but you allow others' opinions and others' perspectives to get the better of you, and then you go in that direction and you're like, I compromised myself. I should have gone in this direction. I regret this. I'm not being inside. You feel like you are being not true to yourself, and you're kind of, you're abusing your internal self this life by neglecting it and not honoring it, and not, allowing for yourself to be yourself, this life. When it comes to trusting with your gut instinct, so trusting your own intuition, trusting your gut, very, very important this life. Having courage, developing bravery. To be fearless often involves, not involving others. To be fearless often involves you doing something on your own, and like having the courage to stand up for yourself. Having the courage to speak your mind, speak your truth, and fight a battle. That could be part of it. Or courage could also be, I'm going to start something that hasn't been done before. I'm going to go out because I have this goal and I have this ambition and I have this thing that I want to do out in the world that is true to myself, that is aligned with myself, that has never been done before, and I want to do it, and I have the courage and the energy inside me. This is a life to not dim down your fire, but to go out there and achieve what your heart wants to achieve. This is your invitation this life. And so as an Aries sun, I am cheering you on, and I am encouraging you to go out and pursue what it is that you authentically want to pursue. Being courageous in this life. Really having a lot of courage in that way. And then constructive self-interest. Like being self-interest. So where self-interest is like, I'm concerned about myself. I am, I am really, really thinking very highly of myself when it comes to, your well-being. The needs that you have and the gifts that you have, like really, really being concerned and very self-aware of your gifts, of what you have to offer to the world, of your talents. And often when you're so concerned with others in relationships, you forget the beautiful part of who you are. You forget the beautiful gifts and all these gems that you have to offer to the world that is inside you, that is just begging you to bring those things out. In this life, you want to bring those things out. So achieving your goals is part of this. And when you do this, you will find that in this life, when you prioritize yourself, you will have much better relationships. The South Node in Libra needs relationships, and part of that is yourself. Like, there is a deep need for relationships, and you're not meant to abandon your South Node. Like, you're kind of, if you really, really feel right about being in relationships this life, and if that truly feels good to you, then understand, real relationships when it comes to, what makes up a relationship, when it comes to not being self-centered, but having self-interest. And there's a difference. So that's what I wanted to say about that before even going on. And then I'm not overgiving. is another one. Moderation and moderation and giving. Like not over giving. Because with this placement, you give more than you get. Like you give so much of yourself. You give all these things, and you feel like you get nothing in return. Like there's the thing. Like this is about receiving that. From the other, and focusing on yourself and what you authentically want to do. There's this thing, over giving. Over giving. I'm giving so much, and I'm not getting anything back. I'm being overly accommodating. I'm and Libra is the giver, wants to give, as opposed to giving what you authentically want to give to the other person, and not over giving just for the people pleasing aspect of it. And then nurturing yourself, taking care of yourself, taking care of your body, your health, your sleep, nurturing your goals, nurturing your dreams, nurturing all that. Like this is a very, very simple North Node placement. So that is literally all of the tendencies to leave behind and attributes to develop for this placement that I want to delve into here. So now, let's get into some more information about this. So Libra South Node can be overly cooperative. Overly cooperative, bending with the other, doing what the other wants, pleasing the other. Like people pleasing is, the thing, and I have a video on my original channel about people pleasing. Where you're just pleasing others and giving the other what they want, and not being true to yourself. Like people pleasing is not being true to yourself, and and not standing up for yourself. Because like you lack the bravery because you're afraid. Like, what will others think of me if I stand up for myself? If I be my authentic self? What will others think of me? Maybe others will reject me. Maybe others will not like me anymore. Maybe they will judge me, and I'm not, and there's this fear, like if you stand up for yourself, the relationship's going to be over. Like you're going to lose contact with this person. You're going to lose being on good terms with this person. You're going to lose the kindness and the love and the compassion, that you built with this person at the high level, not the the not real stuff that I was talking about. But just not standing up for yourself. That's a negative tendency with this Libra South Node. Excuse me. And then not having enough of a backbone, like not having enough of, like knowing who you are and being assertive and, asserting yourself and, and doing all of that. And, so, what does it mean to be assertive? Because I think this is very, very important to look at this. Assertive, part of it is being confident in yourself. Like really, really being confident in yourself of your own needs and wants, and being direct about it. Like you're learning to be direct. You're not learning to, beat around the bush, and be indirect and vague, and just you're learning to like say, this is what I want, and this is what I think, and asserting that, in there, saying that. And expressing your opinions. Like you are afraid to express your opinions because you think that others will reject it, and others will, not like it, and others will just fear it and be totally not on the side of it. Like you're afraid to express your opinions, and also that's what I want to emphasize with this. While, also, of course, you're already so good at this, respecting others in a way where, and know that asserting is not destroying the relationship, or, like don't confuse assertive with aggressive. You are meant to be assertive in this life. Okay. So, achieving your goals and standing up for yourself, and it also says self-assured. So I just wanted to clarify that. So now, the North Node and the South Node. The North Node, let's just talk about that. What are these things? What do they mean? What are you, learning? The North Node is what you are learning, what you are stepping into in this life. The lessons, like, you were born, and this is the classes that you needed to take. Like, this life, you were meant to take classes on self-identity, and learning to put yourself first, and learning to, these really, really serious life lesson classes about being direct and being assertive and all these things, and trusting your instincts, which I talked about before. So that's the class that you're meant to be taking. And then, letting go of the old lessons that you've learned from the past. That's what the South Node is. It's all the lessons that you learn that you developed from previous lifetimes. Like, your soul is meant to not repeat those lessons and not stay in those lessons. But your soul is not meant to unlearn those lessons, but move away from the shadow side of those lessons, of your South Node. I mean, I could say unlearn the lessons, but those lessons taught you a lot of valuable things, and we do want to acknowledge that and honor that. So, now, the 2 points in astrology are Rahu and Ketu. In Vedic astrology, the North Node is Rahu. Funny way of saying it. The South Node is Ketu. Ketu. So those are the names for those in Vedic astrology. Now, Aries and Libra, we already know. I think I've already kind of talked about the opposition of Aries and Libra. Aries is very, very direct, very, very assertive, very dependent. Libra is about the other and collaboration and balance and harmony and all that. So I don't need to go too much in depth with that. Energy. And then we need to balance Aries and Libra out. Like, these two signs could not be more opposite. Like, Aries is about who you are as a unique individual, and it is about confidently asserting your own wants and your own opinions and your own beliefs. And Libra is about openness and sharing with others and concerning with the other wants and with the other beliefs. So, the nodes are about balance. The nodes are not an either-or deal. They are about both and. You're meant to have the best of both worlds with the South and the North node. So, so with the South node in Libra, you're very, very good at relating to others. Like, you have a natural ability to relate others and to tune your energy into the room. Well, you have an ability to read the room out very, very well and tune into what others are thinking, and to be very, very aware of social cues, and to be very, very aware of all these cues of what others are thinking and saying, and knowing the proper way to relate. Like, this is how you must relate, and the proper ways of relating and relationship, which you want to keep those things. You don't want to discard those things. You want to, you have such a talent with relating. You want to keep that, but you want to approach it in the right way this time. So, creating harmony in those relationships. That's what you did. Being overly accommodating in those relationships, overgiving, as I said before, taking care of others' needs and not focusing on your own needs. I covered that already. Seeing yourself through the eyes of others, compromising your own identity and seeing yourself for who you are. In past lives, you put others before yourself. That's what you did in past incarnations. It was all about the other, putting the other before you. That's what it can come down to, where you sacrificed yourself. And so these other people that you were in relationship with, like notice the mental and physical and psychological effect that they have on you. Notice how you feel drained by people-pleasing and being so concerned with what the other things and wants, in relationships in your life. Notice how that can be very, very draining towards you. Notice how that can just suck your energy down or eliminate your good, strong energy within yourself. So notice that in particular. You're learning to focus on yourself this life, your own goals, your own stuff, all that kind of thing. So you're learning about the value of getting what you want and taking advantage of this life, because you can actually limit yourself, and you can actually live a very, very small life if you're caught in relationships and others, and not, you're meant to live this life. You're incarnated in this body, and you are meant to live the fullest life that your soul is signed up to live. And if you're stuck in relationships and so concerned with others, then you're not doing that. So what do you want? What does your heart want? What does your soul just yearn for and crave for? What is that thing that you just want so badly, yet you are with keeping yourself from getting that? You're holding yourself back from getting that because it's fear, like, what if the other doesn't like it? And I'm not comfortable with that because then that'll hurt the relationship, and I don't know how to do that. Like, this is not knowing how to assert yourself and get what you want. Like, you're very, very new in this area of life, in this approach to life, and going after your goals. So you can be conflict avoidant. Libra has the thing where they just do not like conflict, and they would rather keep the peace. Agree, even if they don't agree with it. They'd rather, just get along with the other, even if it compromises themselves and what they want and all that. So, being, conflict avoidant is really, really a huge part of this. And, and you want harmony at all costs. And the point of conflict is you being assertive. Don't think that conflict is a mean, aggressive, disrespectful thing. It is actually you choosing to assert yourself and say, this is what I have to say, and these are my feelings on this, and this issue needs to be addressed in this kind of way. And this actually can bring the other person closer to you, because they can get to know you better, and they will see, and you'll find that when you do assert your needs, the other people in your life respect you, most likely, and honor your needs, and understand your needs, and are on with you. And through them understanding what you need and you want, you build that closer relationship with them. But you're just so afraid of this because you were kind of conditioned, and you just have this belief that if I do this, then you don't. Well, now it's time to, break out of your shell and, and assert yourself in that way. So, and approach conflict willingly, and authentically, with truth, being, having integrity for yourself, having truth within yourself. And you're going to be an individual this life. You're going to be more independent. You're going to be more self-reliant. Relying on yourself instead of relying on others to provide things for you, to give things for you, to provide for you, to be there when you need them all the time. You're going to be more independent in this life. Developing a stronger sense of your own identity. You're meant to developing who you're meditating on, developing your identity. Like, you're meant to explore, like, self-exploration and self-knowledge is really what this life is about. Like, knowing thyself. Like, you're meant to develop your identity when it comes to coming back into remembrance of what you want, what you need, what makes you unique, your personality. What your emotional needs are, what you don't like, what you're interested in, like developing your identity and becoming that much closer to who you are in this life. I keep saying in this life a lot. I'll try to get out of that habit. Now, you're also meant to not suppress anger and emotions. Like, this part of you, like, your soul is calling you, like, get this out. Like, I have a lot of air in my chart, and I do not believe in holding things in. Like, you are not meant to hold things in this life, because that is very, very unhealthy to hold things in. I am a firm believer in not holding stuff in. Firm believer in that. Like I live in that kind of way where I don't, bottle things up and hold things in. I speak to what is going on emotionally and, with me. And I, don't hold in my true feelings. And I think that's very Aries of me to be. And I'm going to take that as a complete and utter positive and good trait. So, you were meant to, leading into, emotions, leading into, your emotions, your very, very strong emotions. Like you have suppressed your emotions. You have suppressed these very, very strong emotions because you're not meant to show these emotions in relationships. Because if you show these emotions in relationships, you are not civil, you are not diplomatic, you don't have high class. You disrupt the peace, especially the emotion of anger. Like there's something about anger that you're denying. Like what about anger are you denying? And I think that's one of the video ideas that I have some time to film is a video about the emotion of anger. And I might bring this into it again. But, leading into that emotion, like you may have some fear and some wounds around the emotion of anger. And so if you can embrace your anger and be assertive about your anger, not hold it in, then you'll find a lot more fulfillment in your life that way. And then another thing is, focusing on your physical body. Focusing on, your physical body, not so much your health and well-being, although this can be part of it, but focusing on exercising, getting into your body as a part of knowing who you are. So, the North Node and South Node is about who you need to become in order to survive and thrive during this lifetime. The North Node is what you need to survive. Because if you don't have the North Node, then you will not get very far in this life. And you'll be like if you're always stuck in your South Node patterns, you will live a very, very, miserable, very unfulfilled, very small life where you're so like, oh, I just feel like I want more, I don't have enough, and I just, because you're not leaning into what your North Node is, and that can be, okay, so I want to jump to my next point about the North Node. It's what you're afraid of. And you talk about facing your fears and getting out of your comfort zone. Well, that's what the North Node is. Facing your fears. The North Node represents what you are afraid of. So, you're afraid of being who you are. Afraid of being yourself with how true, showing your true colors. So, this makes you very, very uncomfortable. And you know what? It's meant to. The North Node is meant to make you uncomfortable because it's meant to be a stretch. It's meant to be a stretch for you to stretch into new territory. And through that discomfort, you find the meaning. Like, if you were just comfortable with everything in your life, there would be no growth, there would be no meaning, there would be no purpose to life. If you were just comfortable with everything, you would kind of live a small life. Like, where's the growth? Where's the exploration? Where's the expanding my soul? So it is meant to be uncomfortable, and you're meant to face that fear. And so very, very likely, I kind of talked about this before, like you're likely married to someone in the past life. You may have had difficult, so the South Node is not only past lives, but it's also your childhood, how you grew up. And so in your childhood, you could have had a very, very difficult childhood where you were actually forced into taking care of yourself. And you were very, very uncomfortable with that because you were so, it's like you found that you couldn't just rely on others, and this becomes like this is your North Node pushing you into what you're afraid of. And so you may have had a difficult childhood where you were forced to take care of yourself and fend for yourself. It's actually a very nuanced way of looking at this instead of just a simple way. Fending for yourself. And so you end up doing a lot of meditation and contemplation on what makes you who you are and what defines your sense of security. Like, what gives you inner security within yourself? That's what you're probably spending a lot of time reflecting on. And this is a very, like, you're so comfortable with the with the female roles. It's very, very typical. Like, what do I have to say about how things used to be in relationships where women would have to be subservient to the men, where women had to just follow and mind their P's and Q's and keep the peace, and they couldn't go out and achieve their dreams and their goals. They had to stay at home, cook and clean and do all this and be, completely, bending over backwards for the men. Well, not anymore. We see a lot of women, and it was not right and it was not appropriate for women to be very, very rebellious and authentic, but nowadays it is. Nowadays it has become so mainstream because women are too emotional, women are too weak. Like all these narratives that we have created, and you're wanting to break away from these narratives during this incarnation. Another thing is self-love. Really, really, loving who you are. And, like when you're so stuck in relationships and when you're denying what your soul wants and what your soul is calling you to do, then you're not loving yourself. It's not a very loving, compassionate act to yourself. And it's a very simple answer to that. So you're not going out and, and the other thing is that, you can be rather competitive because of the comparing yourself to others. Like if you're constantly comparing yourself to others and being so focused on others, then there is a competition because you're so focused on winning over others that you're not focused on just living your own life, going on your own path instead of you're trying to be better than others because you feel unworthy. You feel like you can't be good. You can't be loved and accepted in others' eyes. So you just compete. So this is so you're not live out. You're not. I'm gonna get into that a little bit more in depth later, maybe. But the competitiveness and the fighting and the battle, that's all low area stuff. That's not what you're not meant to be moving into in this life. You're meant to be your authentic self and follow your soul. That's what you're meant to step into. Your soul part of you, not necessarily your ego, like maybe, well, no, your soul. You're meant to tap into what your soul wants, into what your soul needs, and go in that direction. So, you think that in order to be who you are, you think that being yourself means, I have to, be the best compared to others. I have to win against others. I have to be better than others. Because you get so caught up in the other mentality. This is not accurate. You are so sensitive to any judgment and criticism. Like anyone, who judges you for the slightest stepping out of line and being yourself, you are very, very sensitive and very, 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 very hyper aware of that. You're very attuned into that. And the other thing is, you tend to take relationships so seriously. So seriously. Like Libra has this tendency to take others' opinions so seriously to the point where they are sacrificing themselves. Like they are, you have to understand that they are who they are. They are separate from you. They have their own opinions and beliefs and projections. You are you and only you know you. You know you better than anyone else in the world knows who you are. And if, when you understand that and see the value of that, and not take others' opinions so seriously, then you'll find a lot of joy this life. And not comparing yourself to others, thinking, I should have, instead just live a life out of what you want, your own values, without comparing, I'm not as good as this person because they have a better house than I do, or they have all this following that I don't have, or focusing on yourself and what you are already doing, not getting caught up in what others are doing, this life. And And so there's this belief that you have that in order to be yourself, you have to be better than everybody else. Because you're caught up in the other. There's this thing like, I have to be better and bigger, and louder than everyone else. And so there's this need to feel accepted, and you probably just feel internally like, I am not accepted by others. I am not, appreciated by others, and what they think of me. And no matter how hard I try, I'm just not, accepted and loved. And so there's this need to be accepted, brought into balance with the other. Need to be just appreciated and just, accepted is the word for it. And there's this feeling of being shunned, like you feel shunned from the crowd. You feel like an outsider from the crowd. Now, when we have fear, we often go to crutches that we rely on. And we often escape the fear. You are not meant to escape the fear and go around the fear. Like, if I just do this, then I can avoid the fear of doing this. You're not meant to escape the fear. You're meant to face the fear head on of being who you are. And when you get into a relationship, a job, a career, social standing with someone, an acquaintance, hoping that someone will just come in and save you and hold you and do all these things. Like there's this need for you to be saved. This need for somebody to just hold you and hold your hand and be with you all the time. And I understand this. Like, I understand being very, very uncomfortable with being alone. I mean, as a Libra moon, I cannot just live a life where I'm completely on my own. I need somebody to be in a relationship with. And I'm not saying just deny relationship. I'm not saying that. I do have a lot of compassion for you in that way, where it does feel uncomfortable to just, be yourself and be on your own. And if your soul feels like I am meant to be with the other, then, then do that. But just, assert yourself and be your true self in that relationship is what this comes down to. But when you use others as an escape route for being your true self, then that is where, that is where you run into problems. And so, you think that by being stuck in this, relationship or job and career and along the other to, define who you are, and this defines who you are, and this define if I'm in this job or in this career or this relationship, then I'm being fully myself. If I'm, if I'm seeing myself through others' eyes, and if they see me as a good person or whatever, then seeing others how they see me defines who I am, and defines me through then that is who I am, which is not true. You're learning to separate out what others think of you and others' opinions. You're learning to separate the two, separate you from the other. That's what you're learning, is that separation in this life. And Aries is about separation. Again, I keep saying this life over and over. What is my deal? Well, it is kind of like that. So anyway, you're afraid of standing out. You're afraid of standing out from the crowd. You're afraid of being an individual because you're afraid of being that you will be judged by others. There's a fear of judgment that comes into play here. Now, you often seek validation from others. This is a trait. Seeking others to validate you, asking, Libra has this tendency to just always need to check in with the other to make sure that it's okay. Check in, do you mind if, I do this, or is it okay? Can I do this, instead of you taking initiative? Aries is a sign that takes initiative and just goes at something without having to ask for permission. They don't check in. They just do something. They just assert themselves and go out and make it happen. So you're learning to, not seek the validation. That's what you're leaning into. And no matter how much validation that you get from others, it will never be enough. The South Node is like, you keep doing this, you keep, and I think both the South and the North Node, if you keep doing the one thing, it'll feel like it's never enough with both sides. So that's why you have to bring them both into balance to feel like it will be enough. But if you do, always seek validation and permission, and you expect it to heal yourself, it will never be fully enough. Afraid of being independent. You're afraid of being on your own. Like, you're afraid of being on your own. You always want to be with somebody, or all this. Like, there's this fear of being on your own. And it comes down to this comfort zone of where is the other person to accommodate. Like, I need to please, I need to give, and I need to be there for the other person, and I need balance and all these kind of needs. And so if you don't have those needs, then there is discomfort with this that comes into play here. And so you don't feel normal. Like, there's this thing about not feeling normal. There's no normal. Everyone is their unique, authentic self, and everyone is a unique expression of themselves. Like, no one is meant to be just normal. And so, there's a fear of being dishonored by others. Fear of being, disinherited, if that's the word for it. A fear of being shamed by others. A fear of being rejected by others. If, you were to be your true self. Like, especially if you got trained to, this is how you must act, and these are the traditions you must follow, and you must please, and you must, do all these things, then you are afraid of being dishonored. So, they don't want others, and the other thing is, you are so afraid of the other knowing who you are, because the other won't like you. The other will reject you if you share what you like, what you're interested in, what your passions are. You're afraid to share your tastes for fear that others will not like your tastes. So, okay, so there's this need to always, can be like with manipulation, but you feel like you always have to be on the same page with the person. You always have to agree, and which is a very, very good thing, and there's a lot of great benefits with that. You feel more connected with the person and all that. But there's this need in battle to just that you feel like you are very, very much about conflict, because you're about competition, because you're about not in an Aries low road way, but in a like being so concerned with the others that conflict is a big part of your story with this placement. So the need to change another person's mind in order to win a battle. They need to change their mind. Like, if they don't think so, you need to change their mind to convince them of your side in order to win. This is what they try to do, because you don't feel like they're accepting you already. So if they change their mind, then they'll feel like they'll accept you, and then you'll win the battle. And so this is not healthy and not right. And so you think that by winning and competing brings you inner security, brings you, like comparing yourself to others, brings you the inner security. Focusing on the other brings you inner security, not going to bring you inner security. So thinking that being, conflict avoidant, thinking by not fighting, you win. Like, I win if I'm, at peace. I win if I don't assert myself and I'm not truthful with myself. If I'm not being true to myself, and if I think of the other, and if I am collaborative with them, and if I'm balanced with them, I win, yay. No. I'm just going to be blunt and say it. That is not, winning, for this life. So, you don't need anyone to validate what you're interested in. You don't need anyone to approve of yourself. Like, the need to be approved of. The need for others to approve of your interests. Like, you don't need that. You can approve of yourself with your interests, and you can be strong in your values and, improve yourself and say, you know what, I'm interested in this, and I don't care if you, don't like it, and, whatever, I'm interested in this, and this is what I want to do in my life. Boom. You're moved into your Aries North Node. And you don't simplify your life. Like, Aries is about simplifying your life, not looking at things from all these angles and all these point of views, and not getting so caught up in all these other people. Like, Aries is very, very simple. Aries lives a very, very simple life because they're only focused on themselves. So you're learning the value of simplicity, making your life less complex with the people in your life. You're learning to, you're also learning when the time is right to fight. And when it's right to surrender. When you shouldn't compare yourself to others and get into their head, and when you should, do this when it comes to asserting yourself, and when you're discerning when you're just fighting to assert yourself, and then fighting to compare yourself and change others' minds, and and to try to prove something, to try to fight somebody, to try to make yourself feel worthy, to try to make yourself feel validated. It comes from it's an internal level of you giving yourself the permission, giving yourself the satisfaction of feeling worthy within yourself. It's not going to come from anyone else. It's going to come from you. Okay, so and knowing when to surrender. And there's this need of wanting to win the person over, with all these methods. And so this, you are meant to find peace within yourself. In order to be harmonious with others, you have to be harmonious within yourself. Like, instead of pleasing others all the time, please yourself. Do good things for yourself. And how you treat others in relationships. Turn all of that into yourself. Like how you are accommodating and giving and diplomatic. Turn that in on your. Turn all of that in on yourself. How you prioritize others' needs, prioritize your own needs. So that's what you're meant to do in this lifetime. And expanding your creativity and joy. Like, what wakes you up in the morning? What makes you feel alive? What makes you feel, just so excited and so willing to get up and, act and, live life? Like, Aries is about what wakes you up and makes you feel so excited about, so excited about living life. What gives you the fuel and the motivation to keep on living life? Like, Aries is a lot of motivation to keep living life. Aries is very energetic and strong in its, in its personality. And, it's very youthful in nature. And so in that way, you are, being your creative self and doing what gives you joy. So I want to end it at that. Thank you for tuning into this very, very in-depth look at the Aries North Node, Libra South Node. I do believe that the next episode in the series, my plan is to do Cancer North Node and Capricorn South Node, or Aquarius North Node and Leo South Node, which I have some things to say about both of those two nodes, as those will probably come next in the series. I do know that tomorrow on the Bastards of Google podcast, and if you're watching this on Spotify, please follow me on there. I really, really appreciate your support. Comment on these podcasts. I really, really do appreciate your support and your acknowledgement of this podcast. It really, really, helps me out quite a bit. And I will see you on the next episode of the Bastards of Google podcast, which will probably be about Jupiter and Capricorn in the natal birth chart, about how being ambitious leads to luck and good fortune in this life. And there may be deeper layers to this that I may get into in that video, which I'm excited to delve into what those deeper layers and deeper meanings will be. So tune in for that podcast episode coming up tomorrow. And anyway, bye for now.